Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And as we teased at the end of episode number 2 with Mr. Greg Dickerson, we are going to talk about the Great Reset and what we mean by the Great Reset, why we think this is going to be an amazing time for life-changing wealth creation. Let's welcome Greg to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Michael. Good to see you. Yeah, and it's a good week to talk about the Great Reset because the World Economic Forum is meeting in Davos as we speak this week. And, that whole one of the conspiracies that come out of that is the Great Reset conspiracy theory where, these, global elite leaders are coming together to try to control everybody's wealth and everything. And you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And that whole, conspiracy, which was part of a white paper that one of the, the founder of that organization wrote.
Klaus, it's got a great evil name, Klaus.
Yeah, it's funny, but with Renter Nation and vehicle subscriptions, there are a lot of things that point that way. But just the idea that you can get global leaders to get together and agree on number one, who's going to be in charge, and number two, who's going to have what, forget about it. I mean, look what's going on right now. You're not going to get the world leaders together to agree on who's going to run what, who's going to have what, who's going to be in control. It just ain't never going to happen.
It's so funny because that is the anchor that all of these stories are built on. And a lot of people skip that and they go down to the bottom and they can tie all of these things together where it kind of makes sense. You're absolutely right. I go right to the top of the food chain and I go, you're going to have 12, 20, 30 countries agree on who's got what, where they are in the pecking order. Are you freaking kidding me? And oh, by the way, we actually have deglobalization going on. Are you kidding me? No, but that said,
it ain't going to happen. So anyways, what do we mean by the Great Reset?
Exactly.
The Great Reset is the opportunity to get in at the bottom and reset yourself, financially, vocationally, entrepreneurially, and take advantage of the next bull run up, in everything, because it's getting ready to happen again. And we've seen it time and time again where, I started companies in the recessions that ended up doing really well, investments, I made my biggest moves in the stock markets at the bottoms of the, the Great Recession or, great financial crisis of 2008 and 9, then 2017, 2018, the bottom of the markets there and the real estate market changed a little bit, made some moves. And, before that, I guess, in my lifetime experience is probably the late 80s, early 90s. That's when I started my first company was the, early to mid 90s when we were coming off of a little recessionary time. And then bam, it was off to the races there up into the 2000s till everything blew up. So, you have these run-ups and you have these, down cycles. So the key is, to prepare yourself now, get ready, keep your powder dry. Don't make bad moves now on the downside. Wait for that bottom and the upturn to continue. And that's when you can jump in and start those businesses and take over companies that went out or take over companies that are struggling and or assets, properties, whatever. There's going to be opportunities to take advantage of these recessionary times, but you got to have the resources to be able to do it. You need to have the, either the time, the talent, the ability, the capital. You got to have something, so you have to, now's the time to prepare yourself, educate yourself, watch the markets, watch what's happening at the Fed. Keep an eye, if you're in real estate, keep an eye on the markets there, your housing markets, your multifamily assets, commercial, whatever it is, and educate yourself, pour into yourself, build your resources, start raising capital, get people excited, and be ready to take advantage of these opportunities when they come, because you have a generational wealth building opportunity coming on the back of this thing. Once we roll over, now we're not there yet.
No, we're not there yet.
Yeah, inflation is still an issue. Has it peaked? Has it hasn't not peaked? We'll talk about that too. But this is an opportunity coming that only comes around about every 15 years.
Yeah. Again, I think the Great Reset is a great name. It'll certainly be in the title of this video, obviously, but you're so right. I mean, this is going to be my third real bear market where assets are being repriced. And the thing about a bear market is the bad companies, the zombie companies, they go bust, they go to zero. But people are so fearful and there's such a rush to cash. There's a true capitulation that even the good companies go to crazy numbers. I mean, Amazon went down like 92% in the .com crash. And, sure, they weren't quite profitable, but the path, I think, was clear. It is generational. Assets reset. And they, just like assets in a risk off market go too high, in a risk off market, they go too low. And they often go way, way, way too low, whether that is stocks or real estate or these other things. And the other thing I love talking to you about is I think the great generational wealth idea for lots of folks who have an entrepreneurial ilk in them is going to be buying pre-existing businesses. It has been hard the last 2 or 3 years, and it's going to be hard the next year or two. So the ability to buy businesses that exist, have a brand, have customers, is going to be out there. And as you told me, in a recession, you could buy these businesses for zero down, seller financed. So yeah, I think there's life-changing deals coming up for folks that are paying attention. And as you've always said, don't be in a rush. You'd rather miss the bottom and catch the upside a little bit. So I love all the advice you've given us for years and are in your playlist.
Yeah. And it's tricky right now, but the thing is valuations have changed. So, those 18, 20, 30, 50 multiples, depending on the business, from SaaS companies all the way down to, a restaurant, those days are gone. So those are repricing. So you need to understand where the multiples are and where these things are trading at. So that's what I talk about, educating yourself, being in the know, understanding what you should be paying. But in, service-based businesses and, core businesses, a lot of people are just going to walk away from those and retire. Yeah. They'll give them to you, so, I mean, they basically go in there to take it over just to have somebody to keep the thing going. So, you pay them a little something, but basically you'll be able to take over businesses that people will really be willing to give away because they don't have the ability or desire to ride out this next downturn.
Yeah, they're just tired. They're just
tired. Yeah, and they might have enough in retirement or whatever. And I work with people, doing all kinds of things. I've got a guy that's buying up amusement businesses that I'm coaching, and with the little coin operated card gambling games and ATMs and vending machines and things like that. So I mean, there's all kinds of different businesses. I've got another group that's rolling up dental practices, and physicians I'm working with. So all kinds of different people that I'm working with in that strategy right now, and really good opportunities. But the biggest one is those multiples have really changed. So you can get in and take them over. And then when risk on goes back and then liquidity starts flowing again, those multiples will climb and they'll go back up. So it's all these cycles, and peaks and valleys. And, the key is don't get caught in the middle of the downturn like we are right now, where everybody says, oh, buy the dip, we're going back to all-time highs. This is
no, not happening.
We're not done yet. We haven't repriced completely. We're not at the bottom. And again, all you need to do is watch the Fed. The Fed has not really started yet, much less stopped and turned the corner. So when you hear people say, now's the time, now it's safe, go ahead and buy in and dollar cost average your way down. Dude, we could be down for 10 years. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it can take another 2 years to reach bottom, much less bottom out and come back. So we don't know where we are right now because inflation, has it peaked? Has it not peaked? And it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts there. There's economists and investment managers out there and analysts that are saying that it's peaked. Core CPI's peaked and it's rolled over and we're on the downtrend. And a couple of the Fed members said, if it continues to come down, we might not raise rates or maybe even back down a little bit. But again, until those things happen, we're still down as she goes and steady as she goes down. And you're going to get nice violent bounces. That's what bear markets do. And if you go study the bear markets of past, the 2018, event, 2009, what was it? The taper tantrum, what was that? 2013?
15, I think.
2015. If you go study those things, it takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight like the pandemic. That was a very isolated thing. Yeah. Even March 2009, that was a 2-year process.
It was 2 years, 27 months. Yep.
Yeah. So we're in that process right now.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. We're going to talk about inflation. We're going to sneak in a video 4 because I think that warrants its own topic. But the last thing I just want to hit is when we talk about generational wealth, it really is the multiples, right? Because again, I'm just going to use numbers and every business is different. When a bull market is racing, a company's multiples might explode to 24, 25, 26. Then that market rolls over and it reprices and it goes slowly, but it'll eventually reprice at a number below trend, right? It's all these deviations. If a standard price for a business is 12, in a bull market, it runs to 24, it'll come down. It'll be 8. It won't be 8 for a long time, but it will be 8 for a little window. And if you can get into an 8 that then just goes back to average at 12, you made 50%. It's just amazing.
And here's the thing too, for every 1% interest rates rise, the Fed funds rate rises, that reduces valuations by 15%. You can go back and chart that. And, I'll tell you something for everybody to watch, the All In podcast. They did one
2 weeks ago.
Over the weekend, and they showed a bunch of charts, and that was one of the ones they showed is how that interest rate affects valuations and the tips.
Yeah.
versus 10-year, and how that affects markets and capital and things like that. And the one takeaway out of that was they said, forget about prices of the last 18 months.
Yes, they
They're
did.
like, throw it
Out the window.
just cut
Doesn't
that
matter.
piece out of the charts.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been talking about, retracing back to pre-pandemic
You're right.
levels. We might even reduce below there again, but
we will
cut this whole bull run out and look at the charts from that point on in terms of trying to chart growth moving forward.
Yeah, I love the All In podcast. I will be going, if they host another event. They just did their All In one in Miami. I'm going to the next one.
Yeah, that's a fantastic recording. Anybody, watching this should go check that out. A lot of really good information and what we're talking about, in terms of understanding where the markets are, where valuations are, and how capital is seeing risk right now and how they're pricing it, more importantly.
Yeah, the All In podcast is essentially four best friends who are, in my opinion, they're capital allocators, all of them. And they have different slants, right? It's an amazing show. Jason Chamath and David, right? So it's a great show. But again, I think the Great Reset, again, the Great Reset is a title I'm stealing because it has a lot of headlines. But for me, it is a great reset. Assets are being repriced. Assets will again reprice below their intrinsic value. I have done this before. And again, if the normal PE is 12 or valuation is 12, it will reset below that because that's what it does. It goes too high and then it goes too low. And if you could get something at 8 that goes to 12 just normally, you have made 50%. And then if you get seller financing and all these other things that Greg talks about and teaches, it is a time. The next 2 years, in my opinion, will be a time to change your family's future in perhaps generations. That's how good the opportunity will be, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And, learn creative financing, learn valuations, and learn where problems are, because that's where opportunities are created. And this is the opportunity to reset your financial future moving forward, because these opportunities, they come around about every 10 to 15, about every 15 years.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of what we've seen here. So, it's going to take a couple of years to get there, but over the next few years, it's a 15-year generational opportunity that, we don't know what it'll look like 15 years from now, but right now we're in the middle of it.
Yeah. And where can people find you?
Yeah, gregdickerson.com. That's where all my info is. Go check it out.
Thanks, buddy.